Welcome to the Call to Harmony, where we explore the inner journey to oneness with self, others, and the divine.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Tucker here, flying solo for this episode, and just wanted to share some things that have been coming up. Hopefully they're helpful. They've been really helpful for me. Hopefully they're helpful for everybody listening. Here's the topic for today. Waking up by slowing down. Or maybe to wake up, slow down. And what do I mean by waking up? Well, one of the strange realities of life for me is that at any given moment, I have an outer location in the world, and I also have an inner location, meaning I'm coming from some place in my inner world, in my inner life. And we've all had the experience where you were at an outer location, some circumstances where, maybe it was something that you'd been looking forward to, a fun event, and yet your inner location, you weren't in a good place. And so you weren't able to fully be present and enjoy the outer location, the experience of it all. Our inner location makes probably, I would say, far more impact on our experience in the moment than the outer location does. You can actually be in a really difficult circumstance or outer location, and if your inner location is at a high level of consciousness, at a place of harmony, then you're okay to navigate it, right? We see this in the life of Jesus Christ when they're in the ship and the disciples are like, "Master, carest thou not that we perish? We're going to die here." And Jesus was asleep on a pillow when they wake him up saying this, "Carest thou not that we perish?" And you can sense that he's coming from a completely different inner location than the disciples are. They're all in the same outer location. There's this raging storm, and there are fishermen on the boat that are experienced, and they're worried they're going to die, apparently. And so their outer location and their inner location is a place of fear and terror, right? Which puts us in a tough spot with our nervous system. And we've all been there, right? Just frightened and don't have access to anything else but the survival mechanisms. And yet Jesus wakes up and his inner location is a place of peace. And he's like, "Why are you fearful, O ye of little faith?" And I hear him saying, "O ye of little stillness, O ye that the outer location has completely altered your inner location." And Jesus has just woken up from sleeping. Usually when I wake up, my inner location is not super great. I have to do some work to wake up into a better inner location. But Jesus wakes up from this nap and stands up, stretches out his hand and says, "Peace, be still." And then the water calms around them. And it seems that Jesus's inner location was steady and consistent in this moment. And so he was able to get the circumstances outside of him to mirror his inner circumstances, which it seems like that's what Jesus's work was just walking around in the world and helping the outer circumstances be transformed to mirror his inner circumstance. And this is challenging. We live in a world where we're so sped up. The pace of things is so quick. It's been said that we live in an information age. And the information age, holy cow, information is coming from so many different sources and at such speed that it's often befuddling, bewildering, confusing, overwhelming. And information is just moving at double speed. But I think it's a truth that resonates with me that though information moves at double speed today, transformation only happens at half speed. We have to slow down if we are going to be able to transform our inner location, if we're going to be able to alter it to get to a higher state of consciousness, to get to a state of harmony. Slowing down is vital. We're not going to find harmony at the speed, at the double speed that society is running at today. But we can find harmony. We can find transformation. We can find harmony and transformation in any given moment as we learn to slow down to half speed. Let me explain what I mean by that. I'll just share an experience that happened a couple of days ago in the morning. During my meditation, I looked at my clock and I saw, oh, I have 36 minutes right now to just meditate and sit in stillness. So I was looking forward to it. Although I don't know what's going to happen when I sit down to be still, I don't know what's going to come up. I was looking forward to the stillness time. And for this particular practice, I decided I'm just going to remain completely still outwardly as I seek to be totally still inwardly. And so I sat down and got in a comfortable position where I could be alert and closed my eyes and started to meditate and just observe where I was at in my inner world and what was coming up. And very soon, my commitment to stillness, to being still physically, was challenged. I had just gotten out of the shower, and I don't know if you've ever had this sensation, but you know when water gets in your ears and then it starts to like drip inside, like in the inside of your ear, and it's like really itchy in there? Well, that started to happen as I'm committed to not moving a muscle. Um, Water started to drip down in both ears simultaneously, and it like was so itchy. It felt like each little movement of the water drip was leaving a little mountain of itchy red inflammation in its wake. And I immediately, my mind started to fantasize about getting a Q-tip and like getting that water out and scratching the itch. But I was committed to staying still. So I was like, whoo, this is gonna be challenging if this keeps up. And the little water droplets kept moving in my ears, and it was getting more and more intense. But I just told myself, okay, I gotta slow down. I gotta just watch the sensation. And so I anchored my attention to my breath. That helped me slow down more. The sensation didn't change. But what started to happen as I slowed down is I wasn't so focused on the sensation, but I started to notice the urges that were arising behind the sensation, the urges to go get a Q-tip, to scratch it, to stick my finger in my ear and wiggle it until it stopped itching, whatever. Those urges I hadn't seen before I slowed down. I had only experienced the sensation. And so as I was slowing down, this new layer of urges became apparent. And so I decided to just give my attention to the urge to scratch. And once I gave my attention to the urge and saw the urge, notice where that was arising in my body, not just from the sensation but I was having like this desire rise in my belly and chest, if I remember right. And I was like, oh, just stop the sensation. But once I took my attention to that level, that urge, I watched it rise, peak, and fall. All urges have that shape, rise, peaking, and falling. And the sensation was still there, but since the urge had peaked and fallen, I didn't need to act on the sensation anymore. Okay, but then the next level came. A fly landed on my face. And do you know those flies that, like, buzz around your nostrils and your ears and your eyes, and they seem to know exactly what's going to be the most annoying spot that they could be around you? Well, this was one of those flies. And this little fly landed right on my nose and started buzzing around my nostrils. And I was like, "Oh, no. This isn't happening in the middle of this, commitment to stillness." I was like, "This is going to be the longest 36 minutes of my entire life." But this fly started, like, crawling up right in almost into my nostril, and I don't know if this is cheating my stillness commitment, but I was, like, breathing out of my nostril hard, trying to blow it away, right? And then I started to smile, and I was like, "This is just too good." It's almost like something out there wants to challenge my commitment to stillness. And this fly went down and started crawling on my lips. I don't know if you've ever had the little fly feet crawl on your lips. And of course, the thoughts come up. It's like, where has this fly's feet been? Where have they been recently? And what is now being dragged across my lips? And then, but I was smiling and I was like, this is such good practice for me. And I started to try to watch the urges to swat at the fly, to get it away, to blow it away. And I stayed still, and then the fly, this is next level, everybody. The fly went up to my eye, landed on my eyelashes, and started walking slowly across my eyelashes, and I don't know how to describe this sensation of this little fly and the desires, the urges that were coming up to swat at it. It was like this little fly was wearing little poison ivy slippers, and as it walked across each eyelash, it left this crazy itch in its wake and this tickle all along my eyelashes, and then it even got more intense because this little fly went for, like, my tear duct. My eyes were closed, and it was like I could feel its little feet trying to, like, dig into my tear duct. I was like, "What kind of fly does something like this?" And I just started to laugh out loud, um, trying to stay still, keep my commitment, but I was just laughing. I was like, "This is too crazy." And the fly stayed there, and I remembered what had happened earlier with urges, and so I was like, "Okay, I just gotta not pay attention to the sensation," because my attention was drawn to that surface level of sensation and of the stories in my head that are like, "Just get rid of the fly and then come back to your meditation. This isn't a big deal. This is just, you don't have to commit to being still. Just make the circumstances right, change the outer circumstances, and then the inner circumstances will come more easily, the inner peace." And I was like, "No, I'm staying still." And so I came back to my breath. I breathed slowly, watched the sensation of my breath. The fly kept doing his thing. And I noticed the urge rise up that I hadn't been paying attention to behind the sensation. And I felt where that was in my body. And I allowed that to rise and peak and then subside. And my little fly friend hung around on my face and kept buzzing around. But since I had slowed down and sunk down to that urge level and let it peak and fall, I didn't need to swat at it anymore. I know this might sound super strange and very silly as an example, but for me, like, even as the fly was still there, even as my ears were still itching. Oh, and by the way, my cell phone started to buzz. Probably would have been better if I didn't have it in the room during this practice, but that started to buzz. There's text messages coming in. And because I was watching the urges to swat at the fly, I started to notice the urge to check my text messages. So I felt where those were in my body. And then I didn't need to check my text messages anymore. And after it's almost like, you know how in Moana, how she has to take her boat and get out past the breakers, past the waves to the open ocean? It's almost like once I was able to slow down enough to see these urges and to let them rise and fall, it's almost like I got into this open ocean of peace and stillness where something really beautiful started to arise. a sense of presence, a sense of divine presence, a sense of love, a sense of harmony and stillness. And the interesting thing was the surface things were still there. The sensation in the ears, my cell phone kept buzzing, the fly was buzzing around, and they weren't bothering me anymore because there was this amazing stillness and presence that arose up behind it. And it enabled me as I anchored to that and stayed focused on that. All the other things seemed to fade away in their importance. And the fly became just a fly, and the itches just became just an itch. But this presence was so beautiful and sacred and vibrant that everything else paled in comparison. And I've really soaked in that the rest of that meditation, and it was a beautiful experience. And at the end of the 36 minutes, what seemed like it was going to be a super long 36 minutes, I was like, oh, I could sit with this sensation forever and ever. And so, just maybe a silly story, but an illustration of what can happen when we slow down. Now, I often don't even realize I'm sped up in my life. I often don't have the commitment and patience to slow down enough. I'm often caught up in the speed of my circumstances, the speed of society around me. And I don't even realize that I'm reacting to urges. I'm reacting to desires. I'm reacting to subconscious thought and emotion. But as I slow down and the subconscious becomes conscious, there is something transforming that happens. And for me, it's the most exciting thing in the world to realize that if I can remember to slow down, I can change my inner position. And whatever is going on in the outer world, um, that will take its own place. What needs to happen will happen, and I'll have the resources I need to take care of whatever is needed in the outer world, in the outer position, when the inner position is centered and still and rooted in harmony. So I wonder if we could do a little practice together. For this practice, let's just practice stillness, and let's slow down to wake up to the reality of what's going on the inside, and see if we can change our inner position to something that's at a little higher frequency, that's a little more conscious, that's a little more connected to the things that matter most, to the divine, to love, to harmony and peace. So if you want to slow down and do this, I mean, chances are, if you're like me, you're listening to this podcast on double time. That reminds me, I was listening to an audiobook, The Power of Now, and just I had matched the speed of everything around me in my life. And so I started listening to this book, this is years ago, and put it on double speed. And as I was listening to Eckhart Tolle explain how the present moment is so sacred and beautiful, but we need to slow down in order to actually wake up to the present moment, I soon backed off from the double speed down to normal speed, so that I could practice this as I was listening. Now, I'm not condemning you if you're listening to this on double speed or maybe even triple speed. Bless you for listening to it. Thank you for listening. This isn't a judgment, but this is just an invitation for this practice. Let's see what happens. Let's see if we can get into that plane of transformation to that plane of peace and harmony, that plane of consciousness where we can see what's going on inside us, what's driving us, and have more choice and freedom by doing a little practice. Okay, so go ahead, and if you're in a place where you can close your eyes, that's great, so that you can focus totally on the inner world and let the outer world do its thing for a few moments. And let's just start by slowing our breathing. Sometimes when breathing is going on its own, it's unconscious. When our minds are sped up, then our breathing gets a little bit faster, a little bit more shallow. So as we start this practice, just slow your breathing. On the in-breath, make your in-breath twice as long and twice as deep as it usually is. And on the out-breath, slow the out-breath. Let it be twice as long as usual. If you'd like, you can count to help yourself slow down, maybe a count of 4 or 6 on the in-breath, and then match that count on the out-breath. Now let's just take a look at the inner world. Maybe starting by the physical body. Notice any tension. Check in with your shoulders. Are they carrying stress? Is there any anxiety in your belly? Any nervousness? Or any subtle fears or emotions in the background? Just watch for any tension in your body, and as you find some, breathe into it and release the tension on the out-breath. As you slow down, it's almost like sinking through layers of sediment. And sometimes after you pass one layer, something else is revealed that you didn't know was there. So just be patient as you slow down. Your mind may be sped up right now and wanting to do this practice quickly and find all the tensions and get rid of them and move on. But in order to wake up to the inner world, our speed has to slow, almost as if in normal life, normal society, we're water skiing across the top of a lake. And now we're taking off the skis, putting on some scuba gear, and sinking down into the lake of our inner world and seeing what's underneath the surface. And as tensions or thoughts or emotions rise up, just notice them, welcome them, as if you're discovering a new kind of fish and appreciating it and its role in your inner world. Always, inevitably, for me anyway, thoughts rise up. Something that my mind is worried about or wanting to plan for in the future. As those thoughts come up, greet them as a fish in your inner lake, and welcome them and allow them to move on, and bring your attention back to slowing down and sinking deeper. You may notice as you sink deeper, urges rising up. There might be an urge to take care of something that's pressing on your mind, or an urge, a physical appetite of some sort that comes up. As those come up, it's a beautiful opportunity to be present with the urge and watch it. Find where it's rising in your body. Give your full attention to it and allow it to rise, peak, and fall. To help the urge move, you can breathe right into the sensation and relax and allow it to be on the out breath. And then keep coming back to stillness. In the deeper layers of stillness, as we process urges, allow feelings, and watch thoughts come and go. You may, if not, that's okay, but you may sense a rising presence, a rising sense of harmony that can hold all of the disturbances and details of life. And allow yourself to slow down even more and let harmony hold all that is, all that wants to rise, all the need to fix or adjust or change the outer world. And as thoughts come up, as our mind patterns come up, as the need to speed up comes up, just see it for what it is. Thank it for trying to help you. And come back to stillness. Slow down your breath, deepen your breath, and rest. And as you slow down, just take a moment to notice what you have woken up to through this practice. Have you been able to see your thoughts rather than get caught up in them? Have you been able to welcome your feelings rather than be driven by them? Have you been able to watch your urges rather than be controlled by them? And each time you watch an urge, you allow a feeling, you release a thought, you are a step further down the road toward freedom, toward harmony, toward waking up to your inner world and being more connected to the divine, to your true self, and to others. Feel free to pause the recording and keep practicing as long as you like, and noticing how you wake up by slowing down. And we'll start to wrap up this practice. Not so we speed back up out of the experience, but go ahead and when you're ready, open your eyes and see if you can hold to that half speed, you might call it, and see how the outer world looks different from the vantage point of the inner world at half speed. For me, life is so rich and beautiful and precious and sacred when I'm running at half speed. And this is, for me, one of the fundamental laws of harmony, or fundamental requirements for transformation, is learning to slow down and wake up to where I'm at in the inner world. And at that half speed, I'm able to move to a new place and to see from a new place. And what a gift. But it takes commitment. For me, it takes real commitment, because if I'm just going to go at the speed of the world as it is, I'm going to be on the surface of life. I'm going to be water skiing across the top of the water. And I'm going to be, ironically, the faster my pace inwardly, the more asleep I am, the more I'm controlled by circumstances, and the less harmony I feel in my life. So I hope this was a productive practice, an episode for you. In order to wake up, we slow down. In order to find harmony, we go at half speed. Thanks for being with me. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you will join us next time on The Call to Harmony.